Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. This is episode 38, and today we're talking about Home Assistant version 0.82. And with us today, I've got Phil as usual. Hey, Phil.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. And we also have Magnus with us today as well. Hey, Magnus.
Hi.
Where in the world are you from, Magnus?
I'm from Sweden, right between the lakes in Sweden.
Oh,
A
excellent.
little place called Falköping.
Oh, cool. Not our first Swede on the show, so good to see more representation from Sweden as well.
Yeah.
That's right. And welcome.
Thank you.
So we've got some cool stuff to talk about. Hacktoberfest. So Hacktoberfest is now over. We're now into November, and we have 953 pull requests merged.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just massive.
I know.
I've never seen something like that before. That was great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think so a lot of those we've covered in the past, and so now we're on to 0.82.
Some new features, as usual, and I think the biggest one in this release is the new TensorFlow image processing component. TensorFlow allows you to detect and recognize objects which are on your camera image. So, for example, you may have a human, or you may have some keys or anything like that. So you can detect, I'm guessing you would teach the system how to detect those on the image. Then you can now expose that information to Home Assistant. So the state of the entity would be the number of objects that are detected on the camera. So if you've taught the system how to recognize a face, and it can tell you, all right, there are two faces on this camera. So this is really cool, and I believe it's all local as well.
Yeah, there's. I actually saw a while ago. There's a university project that somebody had done with TensorFlow just to detect a whole bunch of different pieces, and it was actually really interesting. So that's actually really exciting because that's TensorFlow is starting to get into that kind of. I know it's kind of buzzwordy, but the whole AI, machine learning, like all of that kind of thing, right? I mean, I don't know if it's full scale, hey, this is full blown machine learning and so on and so forth. I mean, especially if it's sitting on a small server somewhere, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to do a ton, but that's actually very cool.
Is that an online service, or is it no, it's not local, it's online.
Oh, it is online. There you go.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. Also, on the Z-Wave front, we've now got the barrier class supported. For those of you that have like garage door openers or such that use the Z-Wave barrier class, you can now link it with Home Assistant.
So the barrier class has been available for OpenZWave as, I think it's an open pull request on the official repository. It just hasn't been merged yet for whatever reason. The OpenZWave developers have said, look, it's not ready. So the Home Assistant guys have said, look, we want it ready now. We're going to fork it, and away they go. So now, previously, if you wanted to use the barrier class with Home Assistant, you had to fork your own version of OpenZWave and then splice it into Home Assistant. You no longer need to do any of that. So it's all out of the box, ready to go.
Yeah.
Great.
The BT Smart Home Hub router has now got support for device trackers. As you connect your mobile phone or any other devices to that router, it can now be picked up as being marked as home or away.
Very cool. Also, another weather platform. So Météo France, which is the French, meteorological network, now has a component for current weather and kind of your rain forecast and such.
I'm really impressed with your pronunciation of that. I guess that's because you're Canadian, so...
That's right. That's my grade 4 French showing right there.
Support for Wemo humidifiers is now available, and it also includes support for the Home's smart humidifier as well. I didn't even know Wemo made humidifiers before these release notes. So if you're in a country that has those Wemo humidifiers, they're now supported in Home Assistant.
Yeah, so Homes basically OEMs. I don't know if they OEM Wemo, but they basically use. They have a partnership with Wemo.
Right.
To essentially bring that capability to be able to use the Wemo app and such. So I guess by that logic, we're using the same pieces to pull the information off for the humidifier to turn on, off, so on and so forth.
Yep. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So also the Green Eye monitor integration. So I had to look this up to figure out what it actually was. So basically, they're a monitoring, I want to say application, but I believe there's hardware associated with it as well. for things like temperature monitoring, electricity, power, gas, water, like all of those different kind of pieces. Essentially, I guess in this case, you would add the green eye monitor and all of your different sensors would come in, including your temperature sensors and pulse counters and so on and so forth. So that's pretty interesting. And you can use those values in automations and such now too. So
some breaking changes in this release. Mailgun, Twilio, and the Dialogflow platforms have been changed to use the new Home Assistant webhooks components. This means Home Assistant will now generate unique URLs, which these services will need to call. So before you go ahead and hit the upgrade button, just check the documentation for those platforms, as you may need to reconfigure those URLs to communicate back with Home Assistant.
Cool. Yeah, webhooks are kind of the way of the future, I guess, now. So
yeah, exactly.
So Vera, so if you use Vera today, the climate platform will actually report a little bit differently from states. So essentially, they're switching over for it to use standardized climate states rather than one specific for Vera. So again, this goes back to kind of standardization, making sure all components act like all other components, right? So it increases the reusability of the components and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, that means, to some extent, that means Home Assistant gets leaner as an application and hopefully performs better as well. So
I think I saw in one of the pull request comments, maybe it was for this platform as well, or a different one, that if Home Assistant has their standards now because of things like being able to communicate with those third parties like the Amazon Echo and Google Home, for example. So I think one of the problems with which this issue is addressing is that Vera was saying, hey, I'm in this mode, and then Home Assistant was sending that to the Amazon Echo or Google Home, but not sending the correct value because it didn't really know how to translate that. So now with the standard approach, everything, it doesn't matter if you're adding Vera or anything else, it will just report the same information back to those third parties and make the integration a bit more tighter.
Yeah, and again, that's big, right? Just you don't want one thing operating one way and another similar platform, maybe a competitive platform or something, working another way, right? So this way, at least there's standardizations around this. So I think that's great. And again, at the end of the day, the information that's being reported is correct.
Yeah, exactly. The Sense Energy Monitor now has binary sensors, so watch out for any changes to your entity IDs if you pull in this update. They may be additional binary sensors, or they may just replace existing sensors, so watch out for that. And
pollen.com gets some more accuracy. So I guess in the past, the way they kind of forecasted historical, or the way they calculated historical trends, we're basically looking at a couple of data points and saying, okay, I guess the slope looks like this. So it's not super accurate. So in this case, there's a lot more data points, which now have a lot more accuracy. So that's great. So because of that, there is a breaking change. I guess it won't really give you a flat value anymore.
So this is actually using a NumPy driven method, which is the moving average. It's also used in the other trend sensors of Home Assistant as well. So good to see that NumPy being used as well in other places now.
Yeah.
Some other noteworthy updates, and this one is for Lovelace. And this is a big one for Lovelace. They're getting ready to release it. So if you've been using Lovelace and experimenting with it, it might soon become the official UI for Home Assistant. There's and I like this description in the release notes for this release. There is a super alpha release allowing you to change your Lovelace UI from the UI itself. So now you can go in and edit cards and all that. It requires you to specify an ID in your YAML file for the Lovelace card that you want to edit. And once you do that, you can then go in from Lovelace itself and click an edit button, and there's actually a screenshot in the release notes. So that's really cool and good to see that Lovelace is almost getting ready for release as well.
Yeah, it sounds like that's it's a kind of great step forward for those that use it, right? So on that note, kind of related, splitting Lovelace configs, the ability to do that has kind of been removed now. So you can still use secret and you can still use include and such, but you can't really do all of that with the front end editor.
So you can't, you wouldn't be able to use them, I'm guessing, with the editor, which makes sense. You don't want to have your secret exposed while editing a Lovelace card.
Yeah, so exactly. So you can use secret and stuff, but you can't split the config, right? Which
I think
makes sense because it reads it from one single file rather than a whole bunch.
I think that so you can't use the directory merges and functions that were available in your config, but you can still use a single include. So if you do need to do that, you just won't be able to edit it through the UI.
Yes, exactly. And then at that point, you'd be doing some manual edits on the file itself directly.
Yeah. And we touched on this before, but there's been some refactoring for the Amazon Echo Climate support. I've never been able to get the Amazon Echo Climate to work in my setup, so maybe this will fix that. But a few fixes in the release which should allow you to do some voice control of climate devices. So if you're using the Home Assistant Cloud with your Amazon Echoes and you have some climate devices linked with Home Assistant, just give that a try from this release.
That's great. Magnus, it's all about you. I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm from Sweden, as I said, and I'm working as a chief technical officer at a software engineering firm in Sweden. It's called the Farm Interactive.
Oh, nice.
But yep.
That's cool.
So, and I've been doing it for 10 years, and I've been hacking code since 1988, I think, something like that. So it's been a while.
So are you primarily a Python developer or any other back-end language that you use?
No. I don't program that much at work anymore, but I started out with BASIC on my Commodore 64. So that's where I'm from. And then I've been hacking away with assembly and with C and C# and C++.
Oh, nice.
I've done some PHP and I've done, I don't know, I think I've almost touched every language that I know. Maybe not I don't like those. It's like math language.
Oh yeah,
those are not my thing. But anyways, Python is by far the best language, in my opinion, for doing fast and reliable work. Scales well and it's nice to work with.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long have you been using Home Assistant?
I think I started using it for like 4.5 years ago.
Okay, wow. So you've been around for a fair bit then.
Yeah, I started developing. I started with my own system because I needed something at home, but soon realized that it was too big a task because I had a lot of work to do, so I didn't have the time. And then I stumbled upon Home Assistant by Googling Python Home Assistant, I think.
Oh, nice.
Like it was just a random Googling because I needed something written in Python.
Yep. And then you stumbled onto Home Assistant.
Yep.
That's great.
So first thing I did was, I think it was the web link component, I think.
Okay. Yeah. How many people use your system or like use your smart home? I guess like in terms of anybody you live with or any guests and this kind of things.
Yeah, we are 2 adults and 4 children, and they have at least 3 or 4 friends each, and that regularly comes to the house. So we're about like maybe 20 people, something.
Wow.
Yep.
That's cool.
With friends.
That's cool.
Yep.
So have you set up any children-specific automations?
Some stuff, but it's not, for me, home automation should never get in the way. So you should, if they even notice that I have done something, I tend to change it so they don't really understand that it's like automated.
You want it to be in the background and out of sight.
Yeah, I don't like when it rules everything. Like it. For them, it's mostly about lamps turning off and on, and in the morning they get some nice freshly baked bread and stuff like that. So yeah.
Have you automated the bread?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh, how did you do that?
Yeah. No, it's not that hard actually. They sold these baking machines. It was very popular a couple of years ago, and I hacked that one. So
That's
I put in
awesome.
an Arduino and started to play with it. So actually, this is kind of stupid because I could do the same thing with the timers and stuff on the baking machine, but I wanted to be able to do them over the internet. So yeah.
That's cool. That's actually really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got that set up in Home Assistant? Like, is there a little card in your UI that goes, all right, I want this flavor bread today, or I want it to be ready at this time, and you just click a button and it gets automated?
No, no. Oh yeah, I could do that. Yes, I can press a button or make an automation or script or anything, and I can. But the only thing that it does at this point over Home Assistant, because I haven't had time to like play around with it. So at this point it starts baking bread, so I have fresh bread when I wake up. But more than that, I haven't played with it. So
That's great.
but I could set like what type and yeah, I could do that.
That's awesome. So when you hacked the bread machine, I'm guessing you just put an Arduino behind the on-off switch so that you could control it remotely.
Yep. No, I put it in all of the buttons.
Oh.
But I haven't fixed it. I haven't
awesome.
fixed the code yet. The code is not ready. So I'll have a tutorial up.
That's amazing. That's actually very, very cool.
Yeah. That's only on-off buttons, and they are like analog buttons, so it's not that hard, actually. Yeah,
that's neat. So every day you wake up to the smell of fresh bread. That's
cool.
That's amazing.
and coffee.
And coffee. Oh man, yeah, that's the life.
Yeah.
Did you do the same with your coffee machine or kettle?
No, that's just a Telstick plug, a Nexa.
Yeah, smart switch.
Yeah.
Right. So how long have you been doing this then?
Well, hacking away, I think, I don't know, all my life, it feels like. This is just what I do. Some people collect cards, stuff like that, and I code and hack things. That's what I do. Yep.
Yeah, I get that. How are you running Home Assistant? Are you using a Raspberry Pi or Hasio or Docker or anything special?
Latest dev, always. And obviously a lot of forks that I switch between. So, and it's actually up in my. I don't separate the dev environment from my live environment. So I always if I test something, I do it on the live environment just so I can see if anything is wrong.
You like living dangerously, testing in production.
Yeah.
I like it.
I was just gonna say that.
No, I don't feel it danger because it's like this. Everything that's automated I could do manually. So I never okay, now I messed up something, I can't turn on the lights. That will never happen because I always have a manual override everywhere. So I don't feel that it's dangerous in any way. The thing that I see is that I get to see the bugs that I've implemented into the system, and then I can fix them. So if my system is working, probably the best guess is the most people's using those components that I contribute to would work.
And what sort of hardware are you using Home Assistant on? Do you have an automation, like a big server that you're running Home Assistant through?
Yeah, I have a server rack with a lot of stuff in, a lot of nice little neat things.
Yeah, a lot of power.
So it's running on high power server rack. So it's not a Raspberry. I do have 4 Raspberries hooked up, but not to that thing.
Yeah, very cool. So do you use like Hue or LifeX or any Z-Wave or Zigbee stuff, or like what kind of components do you use?
Hue for lights, but I also have Telstick, as I said before, and I have let's see, I have Melissa Climate. They have a whole system with smart things, but I implemented the for the heat or HVAC. I think the name is.
Yeah, I remember that came out a couple of releases ago. We remember talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I listened to that. I was like, oh, they said it. Yeah. No. Yes, I just started working on they have a Bobby, which is a water heater thingy, which you put on the water heater. So you can, it basically, it's just measuring temperature of cold water that's going in and hot water that's going out. And it was electrical stuff like wattage and such. So it's not a real smart heater, but it works. You can set a wave mode and stuff like that. I'm working on it. And then I have I have Xiaomi, so I have a vacuum cleaner, and I just bought a Ecobee, which I'm going to install in my other heater, and so on. I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's all integrated with Home Assistant, so that's even better.
It is. I just I had to remake all the system for the all my configuration for the 5th time, and so now I'm using Lovelace as well. But it took me it took me a while to actually set it up, because I have, let's see, I have 12 flowers which I monitor. Xiaomi. And I have and then I separated all the rooms, so that makes it a lot of tabs. And
So just out of curiosity, on a personal note, when you're monitoring those plants, are you using the Xiaomi Gateway to report those, or are you using, I think there's I'm using Plant Gateway, which is a Bluetooth to MQTT gateway.
Yeah, that's the way I do it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I found with this is that because my Raspberry, which is actually the Bluetooth device in this, it's mounted behind my TV, and every time I turn the TV off, it stops recording the flowers. And that
are you powering the Raspberry from the TV?
Yeah. So right. I have some free Raspberries that I don't use at the moment, but the thing is that I don't have the time to set it up. So, and I feel like, should I put a Raspberry just to monitor my plants? I'm not into. I want to use the things that I already have set up.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's nice to see. I can monitor the temperature of the house for every room, and that's nice.
Yeah, I've got those with because I've got a lot of multi-sensors with Z-Wave, so they come with the light level, the motion sensor, and the temperature. So it's really cool being able to see what parts of the house are warm and cold. Yeah,
I'm hoping for you because you have motion sensors as well. But I saw that there was a pull request for the component, but not to Home Assistant, for the library that you use. But it hasn't been implemented yet into Home Assistant. But
so do the Hue motion sensors also detect light level as well? Do they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
I have 2, I think, or 3, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then they could say, okay, when it gets dark, turn on the lights, rather than turn it on at 5:45 or 45 minutes before sunset.
Yep.
Right. If it's super cloudy outside, then you can still turn on your lights and stuff. So that's great.
I would like to use Home Assistant for those. It's
yeah. Well, you can still capture those values, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know. I can't yet because the merge request hasn't.
It's not. Yeah.
Done.
Right.
No.
Another option would be to use something like Zigbee to MQTT. I'm not 100% sure if they support all the values of the Hue motion sensor, but if they did, you might be able to grab a little USB Zigbee radio and then use that to get those values into Home Assistant over MQTT.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that in the past I hacked hardware hacked anything that I could get my hands on, but with current workload and keeping up with the things that I like to do, which is to actually write code, I don't have the time to fill around so much. So I tend to buy more and more like standard versions of everything. And the latest thing I bought was the Hue system, and it's and the Ecobee, but it's more like that's a finished system. You don't have to do anything more than set it up, push a button, then you're done.
And that's it. And that's where a lot of the cost benefits come into it. Like, sure, Hue can cost a bit more than some of the cheaper Zigbee light bulbs out there, but you are getting, I think Hue's renowned like as the gold standard basically for how things should integrate with home automation and all that, because it's very reliable. That's the trade-off you get.
I've never had any problems at all. It just works. That's so good. Yeah. But I must say that the way that we are proceeding with Home Assistant and stuff are turning out, I think that this approach with just push a button and then everything works is slowly but surely coming into Home Assistant as well, because the latest stuff that's been done with the discovery, and so I really feel that we are on the right path here. It's
going to be very easy for new users.
I think so. I have heard this before. Even the software developers at my companies, I told someone that use Home Assistant, and he went home and tried it. Really didn't appreciate the YAML files. It was like this. This is he's used to JSON. That he knows JSON, so he rather had them in that language, which I like, or that markup, which I think is not that readable, but in his mind it was.
Yeah, I mean, JSON and YAML are very similar. I think they're subsets of one another anyway, so I'm guessing you can just convert it between the two if you really had to.
Yeah, but just the thing with the Lovelace where I could edit the file, just go into the browser and reload. Like, how many times have I restarted Home Assistant just to put in a group, or just to oh no, spelling mistake in in some switch and stuff.
And then you have to wait 5 minutes for the restart to happen and all the entities to be rediscovered, and
it has been. I think that the restarts before they were a lot longer, so there's a lot of stuff that's been changed that actually makes the whole system a lot faster. But with Lovelace, it's like night and day.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What are you using for presence detection in your house?
I use OnTracks for my phone, but then apart from that, I have the Asus.
The router.
Yeah, which I trying to make async, and I'm having plans on integrating some switches for users in Home Assistant, so I could turn off or throttle someone's internet usage based on device.
Oh,
I'm not really sure that I have children, as I said, and they're watching a lot of crap all night long, and the Asus router has some nifty, nice children monitoring things which you can use, but I can't stand logging into that system, so I really want to have it in Home Assistant, and then I could start to automate it. So if I know that someone has been watching Netflix for 2 hours, that's 2 hours, which is 1 hour too many. And maybe tell me that he's watching just Netflix for 3 hours in a straight row here. Do something. So
turn the TV off.
this is the reason where because I actually did a sensor now, which is coming up in 0.83, I think, which is download and upload
for the ASUS Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just it's for the internet connection. So it's going to measure how much going through. But that's overall. So I don't know which device is using what. I'm not sure how much I can really do, but if it's in the front end system, I think that I probably managed to pull it out somehow. Maybe. I'm working on it.
And then push it to Grafana and get some nice long-term stats over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have it set up now, so it pushes to Grafana, and then I have that, and then I have speed test,
right?
So I can see the both. Yeah, which kind of helpful actually. When I noticed that the internet connection is slow, I could like I can guarantee that it's a spike in the download sensor. So
helps to correlate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I found that when we're trying to watch Netflix, that if I'm downloading too much, then we can't stream Netflix. So I have a sensor set up that as soon as the Roku has the Netflix app open, it will then activate turtle mode in a lot of my download clients, just to ensure that nothing's hogging the internet, so Netflix can get priority.
Yeah, that's a great way to use it. I'm a bit of a statistic nerd, so I love having all the numbers.
Yeah.
Hey, that's awesome.
Grafana is like, I don't know, it's heaven.
That's funny. So what are some of your favorite automations and stuff that you have set up already? Like if you had to pick, like maybe your top 1 or 2, what do you think that is? And how do they help you?
Yeah, we talked about the morning routine. That's very helpful. But then I have, like, when I leave my house, the vacuum goes on. That's very nice. And when I come home, it goes back to the dock. And then I have appliances like dishwasher and washing machine and stuff. I stole that from you, Phil.
Oh, yeah.
You had it on your blog. I modified it
nice
a bit, because I want to use alerts rather than using automations for everything.
Yep.
So I did some customization, but that was nice. And then I have a wish list, but I haven't gone around to fixing that one yet. So I live in Sweden. We need to change tires like 2 times a year.
Yes,
and I'm a pretty busy guy, so I have a lot of things going on, and I never seem to get around to, like, you need to do this now. So I'm thinking about doing a thing where I, like, okay, it's going to snow in 2 days. It's going to snow, so now you have to change your tires. Well, book in the calendar for like 1 hour, where, okay, now you have to change your tires, because I could read the whole Google Calendar, and then I could like fit it in somewhere.
You could, I guess you could automate that somehow.
Yeah. It could be done with the IFT.
Yes. Yeah.
You could do it, but I haven't gotten around to it. I want it.
Could you just do like a recurring event the same time every year? Just, put in 2 events the same time each year?
Yeah, but the thing is, my schedule is kind of very hectic schedule. So if I do that, there will probably be a customer that wants that time from me. So it's better to have them like ad hoc, like say 2 days in advance. Then I know that I'm actually going to maybe be free that time. But for me to book a year in advance is like, no. That's I have no idea. I don't even know where I am at that time. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Today I've learned that I need to make a automated bread maker.
That's right.
I could send you the schematics.
Yes, please.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
It's been great.
No, thanks so much for coming on. This is it was a great chat. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.